Okay, welcome to another Cloud Minute with Core Vault. I'm Jeff Cato, and I'm here with Edward Wallace, one of our head sales engineers, and we're going to talk to you today about retention settings for your backups. So, Edward, let's talk through some of those specific areas and questions we really go through with a client on the front end of getting all this set up. One of the very first areas is the frequency of changes for files. Can you walk us through that a little bit?
Yeah. So really, Jeff, what you're asking is what defines a generation, or what we call a generation. And so basically what that boils down to is each time a file changes, that's when we define a generation. There's a lot of backup softwares that talk about, hey, every time a backup runs, that's a new generation. Well, you don't want to do that, because then you suddenly start playing a guessing game as to where your file actually is. So the big thing is when a file actually changes, whether that be daily, weekly, monthly, that's when a new backup generation is actually defined for the file itself.
Okay, and so we will dig into the idea of frequency of change, right? What kind of things do you look at on frequency, or how far back they maybe have to go back to recover a file? Are some of those factors taken into consideration, and how do you recommend it?
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, for a general small business, the main thing you look at is, 5 generations may be enough for them. What you're doing in that instance is, hey, if they're doing daily changes with a QuickBooks file or an Excel file, then you're getting about a week's worth of changes so that they can step back in time if something happens. Now, obviously, if you need something more comprehensive, then you worry about things like the backup, tape backup, doing a grandfather, father, son. Suddenly you're doing one a day for a week, one a week for a month, one a month for a year. That gives you the capability to go back almost a year in time.
Okay, and I think there's some inherent dangers with some other software providers out there in this area based upon the frequency of change and only how far back they go and keeping a hold of that data. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, as mentioned earlier, obviously if they're only keeping 30 generations and it's creating a backup each time, then suddenly, hey, if you've lost a data at 31 days and there's not a generation there, then
you can't go back and get it.
You can't restore it.
Okay, so that's absolutely critical. And then last but not least, let's talk about data growth and deletion settings. We talk about deleting data on your system, not your backup necessarily, but there's ways that you can set that up. Is that right?
Yeah, because, I mean, when you're first starting out, the most imperative thing is that you want to be able to restore a file even if you've deleted it. So a lot of times, they'll say, hey, we just want to keep our backups, even if we delete something, keep it on the set. That way we can restore it at any point.
Okay.
But as you grow bigger, there's a lot of growth associated with that. If someone downloads a PDF file that they don't really need, we back it up and then they delete it. Well, there's data that you've backed up that's, increasing your size. Mm-hmm. So the main thing there is that we can set up a deletion rule that says, hey, what is your buffer zone? What is the 5 days, 15 days, 30 days that you want to say, hey, I will keep a file until this point once it's been deleted. After that, we'll take it off the vault.
Well, that's great advice. So when you think about your business, really think through the deletion setting policies, just your overall retention setting, because if you set it up right on the front end, you're going to be okay on the back end. You're not going to be disappointed when you got to go back and restore that file. So great advice today, Edward. We appreciate that, and we appreciate you guys joining us for another Cloud Minute with Core Vault.